Georgie and Mandy's first marriage has already released 2 episodes. And with that, I can honestly say that I was wrong about it, and I officially apologize for that. For years, I covered Buff's Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon for Screen Rant. So it was a given that I would also tackle the latest show in Chuck Lorre's evolving universe. Set after the events of Young Sheldon finale, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, as an attempt to continue taking advantage of its parent series, Puppy Oven, after it has ended. I fully understand where Young Sheldon had to undid spot still being very popular. After years of contradicting the Big Bang Theory canon, by creating countless plot inconsistencies to varying degrees, they wanted to honor the established timeline with Sheldon's move to California. That said, it's also no secret that I was campaigning for the prequel's rebranding Cuppas instead of launching a new show. It would have been a much easier transition, plus, it would also work on Young Sheldon's tone and format. CBS had other plans, however, which made me quite skeptical of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Why Georgie and Mandy's first marriage's multicam format worried me. The Big Bang Theory was also a multicam show. Premiering a new spin-off, even with its ties to hit shows, always comes with risks. Chas, Tuttalas and Franz Ja, some of the failed offshoots proven that they can't succeed based on connections alone. Naturally, I was worried about Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, especially since it would shift its focus from the Cup family to the Muck Aluskas, who now make up its ensemble cast. That said, more than anything else, I was most concerned over the change of format. Young Sheldon was a Sungla series, which meant that it was filmed in closed-door sets. Meanwhile, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is a multicam show, similar to its Big Bang Theory, which was filmed in front of a live studio audience. Based on the overall vibe of the Nud-centric sitcom, its setup gave it a more humorous tone, which wasn't bad. It is just that I wanted Georgie and Mandy's first marriage to have the same storytelling approach balancing comedy and drama as its parent series, and it was hard to imagine that in a multicam environment. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage premiere proves that it can still do dramatic scenes effectively. The first 2 episodes of Georgie and Mandy are surprisingly emotional. As it turns out, I didn't have anything to be concerned about at all. Having watched the first 2 episodes of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, I am quite impressed with how the series is able to balance comedy and drama effectively, despite the live audience's laughter. The Sungla camera setup really worked for Young Sheldon, as it allowed the director to control the pacing of the narrative. It could stay in a dramatic or tense moment for as long as it needed, which meant that these scenes were able to breathe. Montana Jordan and Emily Usmat are exceptional during Georgie and Mandy's more serious conversations without losing their dynamic's playfulness. Being filmed in front of Pupla, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage doesn't have that luxury, since it has live viewers to cater to. Despite that, it is still able to effectively tackle emotional moments. Georgie and Jim's conversation about Duff of Georgie is particularly a stand-out moment for me, as it was then that I realized that Georgie and Mandy's first marriage isn't shying away from delving deeper storylines. It's also worth noting that the cast has been great. Montana Jordan and Emily Usmat are exceptional during Georgie and Mandy's more serious conversations without losing their dynamic's playfulness. How Georgie and Mandy's first marriage format can make it better than Young Sheldon. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage can benefit from its live studio audience. Just because Georgie and Mandy's first marriage has been great in executing their dramatic scene, it doesn't mean that it sacrifices its comedy. If anything, I think that it makes it more creative and precise. The multicam setup allows for a variety of comedy sources. While Young Sheldon primarily relied on its dialogue for its humor, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage can also tap into physical comedy to bring in laughter, which is better, as proven by my holy grail sitcom, Frusak, the series that Laura used to explain the change in format for his new Shant Mumma's shaking face, while the house shakes is already funny in theory, but the laughter from the audience makes it more hysterical. The same can be said during the final scene of Georgie and Mandy's first March episode 2, when Georgie asks his crying sister if going to George's grave helped her, and she aggressively replies. The new show can tap into the energy of the audience for its comedy, something that young Sheldon doesn't have. Reflecting on the trajectory of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, I find myself humbled. Initially, I doubted their union's longevity and the authenticity of their bond. I labeled it impulsive and naive, blinded by preconceived notions about what constitutes a successful relationship. But as time has unfolded, it's become evident that I was profoundly mistaken in my assumptions. Today, I aim to not only admit my error, but also explore the depth and beauty of their relationship, which I failed to see at first. This is my official apology to Georgie and Mandy for underestimating their journey. First impressions aren't always right. Like many others, I was quick to judge when Georgie and Mandy first announced their intention to marry. It seemed sudden, almost reckless, given their youth and the complexities of their individual lives. Georgie, ever the dreamer with a tendency to leap before looking, had a reputation for impulsive decisions. Mandy, on the other hand, was pragmatic but cautious, often reluctant to fully embrace Georgie's wild optimism. From an outsider's perspective, they appeared mismatched, their differences more likely to cause friction than foster growth. At the time, I couldn't fathom how such a pairing could work. Their marriage seemed like a knee-jerk reaction to external pressures, rather than a considered choice. I scoffed at their decision, assuming it would end in heartbreak. My skepticism was rooted in the belief that maturity and compatibility were prerequisites for a lasting marriage. In my narrow view, Georgie and Mandy lacked both. The undeniable chemistry. What I failed to recognize was the magnetic chemistry between Georgie and Mandy. Despite their differences, they shared an undeniable connection. Georgie's boundless enthusiasm balanced Mandy's measured caution. Mandy's grounded nature provided Georgie with the stability he often lacked. Their dynamic wasn't about perfection. It was about complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. I overlooked how their love wasn't confined to grand gestures or idealized notions. Instead, it was built on everyday moments of understanding, compromise, and shared laughter. They challenged and supported each other in ways that defied traditional metrics of compatibility. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was raw, and that's what made it extraordinary. Overcoming adversity. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage was far from smooth sailing. They faced their fair share of challenges, financial struggles, familial expectations, and the pressure of building a life together at a young age. I wrongly assumed these obstacles would tear them apart. In hindsight, I see how these trials only strengthened their bond. One particularly memorable instance was when they weathered a significant financial setback. Mandy, ever the realist, initially panicked, while Georgie's optimism bordered on denial. Yet, instead of letting the stress drive a wedge between them, they found a way to work through it. Mandy taught Georgie the importance of planning for the future, and Georgie reminded Mandy that it was okay to hope and dream, even in difficult times. Together, they navigated the storm with resilience and humor, emerging stronger on the other side. Their ability to tackle adversity head-on was a testament to their commitment. They didn't run from their problems or from each other. Instead, they faced them together, proving that love isn't about avoiding challenges but overcoming them as a team. Growth through love. Another aspect I failed to appreciate was how Georgie and Mandy's love transformed them as individuals. Marriage wasn't the end of their personal growth. It was a catalyst for it. Georgie, who had often been accused of being immature and irresponsible, grew into a dependable partner. Mandy, who struggled to trust others fully, learned to open her heart and lean on someone else. Their journey wasn't linear or without setbacks, but it was a journey of mutual growth. They inspired each other to be better, not through criticism or coercion, but through love and encouragement. Georgie's relentless optimism pushed Mandy to take risks, while Mandy's steadying presence grounded Georgie in reality. They didn't just coexist, they evolved together. The power of vulnerability. One of the most beautiful aspects of Georgie and Mandy's relationship was their willingness to be vulnerable with each other. They weren't afraid to show their flaws or admit when they were wrong. This vulnerability created a foundation of trust and intimacy that many relationships lack. I recall a moment when Mandy admitted her fear of failure and her worry that their marriage wouldn't work. Instead of dismissing her concerns, Georgie listened, offering reassurance without minimizing her feelings. Similarly, Georgie confessed his own insecurities about not being good enough for Mandy. Instead of judging him, Mandy reminded him of all the ways he made her life better. These moments of honesty and vulnerability showed me that their relationship wasn't about being perfect, it was about being real. They didn't pretend to have all the answers, but they faced their uncertainties together, hand in hand. Redefining success. My definition of a successful marriage was flawed. I equated success with longevity and stability, ignoring the nuances that make a relationship meaningful. Georgie and Mandy taught me that success isn't about never fighting or having everything figured out. It's about showing up for each other, even when it's hard. It's about choosing love every day, even when it feels easier to walk away. Their first marriage may not have been traditional, but it was deeply meaningful. It wasn't defined by grand milestones or societal expectations, but by the quiet, consistent effort they put into loving each other. An apology and a lesson learned. Georgie and Mandy, if you're reading this, I owe you an apology. I judged your relationship unfairly, failing to see the beauty and strength in your love. I was blinded by my own biases and assumptions, unable to appreciate the depth of your connection. Your journey has taught me valuable lessons about love, resilience, and the importance of keeping an open mind. You showed me that relationships don't have to fit a specific mold to be valid or meaningful. You proved that love isn't about avoiding mistakes, but learning and growing from them. Thank you for sharing your story, and for reminding me that love, in all its messy, imperfect glory, is worth celebrating. Your first marriage wasn't a falla. It was a beautiful chapter in your shared journey. In closing, I want to express my admiration for Georgie and Mandy. Their love story isn't just a testament to their bond, but also a reminder to the rest of us to embrace love in all its forms. I was so wrong about them, and for that, I am sincerely sorry.